6 o'clock. So, good evening and welcome to this evening's meeting of the Woodbury County Zoning Commission. Today's date is February 26, 2018, and the time is 6:01 p.m. Tonight's meeting will be audio taped and minutes will be prepared. In respect to all parties, we ask those present to turn off cell phones or set to vibrate. Those in attendance are asked to legibly complete the attendance sheet upon the front table. I would like to take a moment to review the procedures that the Commission will follow tonight. First, the Commission will handle the normal housekeeping agenda items. Then for each application on the agenda, I will open the public hearing on the item. The Planning and Zoning staff will then present the staff report, including the staff recommendation. Any letters or other communication received from the public prior to the hearing will be entered into the record. The applicant will then have the opportunity to present his or her case and respond to the staff report. Next, we will hear comments from the public. If you would like to speak either in support of or against the application, you must come to the microphone. Please first state your name and address for the record. All interested parties shall be heard, but repetitious comments should be avoided. Repetitious or irrelevant comments may be ruled out by the chair. Ruled out of order by the chair. Sorry. I ask that you remain respectful and courteous with your comments at all times. After all public comments have been heard, the staff and applicant may make a closing statement. The hearing shall then be closed by motion and vote. Thereafter, no further comments from the staff, public, or applicant may be heard unless asked for by the Commission. The Commission shall then deliberate the case and may ask questions of the applicant, the staff, or any party offering testimony. However, such questions do not reopen the hearing for additional comments from the public unless so requested or approved by the Commission. The Commission will then formulate and vote on a motion. The motion will typically either grant or deny the requested application. Any Commission member who has any ex parte communication to place in the record of this meeting should do so prior to the beginning of the deliberation of the respected agenda item. And hearing that, the first item on the agenda is election of the 2018 chairperson. Do we have any nominations for chairperson?
You.
I would second that.
Aye.
This is going rather quickly.
Are you willing to continue?
I'm willing to continue, sure. So we have a first and a second. All in favor say aye. Do we need this by roll call? Roll call? Okay. Bruce? I heard an aye. Tom?
Aye.
Thank you.
Aye.
And thank you.
No, thank you very much.
No, thank
We
you.
appreciate.
You're very, very welcome. I'll be nice. Okay, so the second item on the agenda then is, or is it still the first? A vice chair. We need to vote on a vice chair. And I will nominate Bruce.
I will
Unless somebody
second
else would
that.
like to do that.
Didn't know we had a vice chair.
Okay, we have a first and a second. Do we roll call that one too? Does anybody else want to run? No? Okay. Okay, so Bruce, do you want to vote for yourself?
Sure.
Okay, all right. Tom?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Okay, so we have a chair and a vice chair. Thank you, everyone, for your cooperation. Next item is any citizens wishing to be heard regarding a non-agenda item. Do we have anyone out there for non-agenda items? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the next one, which is approval of the minutes from the Commission's November 6, 2017 meeting.
That's actually the October 23rd.
Okay, we had a nope.
Been quite a break. Yeah.
That's okay. We were kind of questioning the date. So October 23rd, 2017 meetings. Do we have any corrections, additions, or deletions on those minutes? If not, I'd like a motion to approve
A motion to approve the minutes.
as written.
That's it.
Okay. Anyone else?
Second.
Second? Okay, we have a motion and a second. All in favor say aye.
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 Motion carries. Next item on the agenda, item number 4, is the Breezy First Edition. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. Minor subdivision and government lots 4, 5, 8, and 9 of Section 1, Township 88N, Range 43 west of the 5th Prime Meridian. GIS parcels 8843011, 00005, 8843011, 00007, 884301251, 1003, in addition to Woodbury County, Iowa. Would you like to read into the record background information, please?
Yes, thank you, Commissioners. David Gleiser, Director, Community Economic Development. So representatives of the Fred August Breezy Jr. probate are filing the subdivision application and final platting to subdivide 77.44 acres into 5 lots for purposes of sale. Property zoned in our agricultural preservation zoning district, and as the chair mentioned, the property is located in government lots 4, 5, 8, and 9 of section 1 of the Kedron Township. We submitted the extraterritorial review, so the city of Correctionville, which lies within the 2 miles of the proposed subdivision, has right under the state statute for that review. On January 8th, 2018, the City Council by resolution approved the final plat of the Breezy First Edition, and that resolution is enclosed in your packet. Property owner notice was sent to 7 property owners within 1,000 feet and listed within the certified abstractor's affidavit. They were all notified by letter of the public hearing, and as of February 16, 2018, the office had not received any comment from any property owner owning property within the 1,000 feet. And since then, we haven't received any other comments from anybody. I don't believe there's anybody in the audience for or against it. I know that the surveyor, Scott Gernhardt, is here. He's been the surveyor working on this. We have submitted notices to a number of different departments and agencies. They were provided copies of the plating and asked to make comment. As of February 16, 2018, when the packets were sent out, we hadn't really received any significant comments from any of the agencies. Mid-American Energy Company had no comment. Woodbury County Soil and Water Conservation District, no comment. Iowa DNR, no comment. Siouxland District Health, no comment. County Assessor, no comment. County Department of Emergency Services just had one brief comment in relation to the location of the lots being within the flood zone. Woodbury County REC had no comment. County Engineer did have some comment, as well as the County Recorder on what appeared to be just a typo in the legal description. And the County Recorder had a question with regard to an easement in the right-of-way near Highway 31. From my understanding, it seems like that's been figured out. The surveyor provided some additional detailed information as it relates to when Highway 31 was realigned with the new bridge. The county gravel road had a different alignment, likely a much lower elevation, so it tied straight into the old Highway 31 instead of the curved alignment that is there today. So the state went around this old 66-foot right-of-way with their description, since they didn't need a new roadway easement because the old one existed. That was sufficient for the county engineer and the county recorder. And so other than that, subject to any public comments, the staff recommendation supports a final plat approval by your commission, including any conditions your commissioners may want to warrant. Scott, do you have any additional comments or anything to provide?
I personally, and this might be a private matter, so I'll apologize if I'm stepping into something. What's the purpose of a subdivision when you're going to sell the property anyway? I'm a little confused. I mean, is it all pre-sold and now you're looking for a subdivision because of what has?
Scott Gernhardt, True Engineering.
Okay.
The purpose of it is one of the heirs to the estate receives 10 acres of land, and since it crossed over all these different government lots, it was a requirement from the county to subdivide that split. which created the additional 3 lots were in each of the government lots.
That makes sense. I wasn't sure. It's like, okay, why would you do all this in the meantime? All right. All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions or comments? Barb, you have a question?
Just kind of explains it a little bit better on this little diagram here on the last page, where the government lots are. You can kind of see where that would come in question there.
Sorry, what page is that?
Oh, it's the last
Oh,
page.
got it.
45.
Got
yeah,
it.
It's gonna,
Yep. Oh, sure. Okay. Any other questions or comments? Would the Breezy family like to address the commission about anything in particular? No? Okay. Sounds like it's pretty much cut and dried.
Beautiful part of the county. Wish I could afford to buy some of that ground.
Well, I know, I know. If I understand correctly, is there an auction coming up then on this property? When is it?
I know it's beginning of April.
Okay, there you go, David.
Yeah. Try to talk my wife into moving on to the country, see how that goes.
Okay, anybody, anything? Can't think of anything you'd like to ask? Okay, I'd entertain a motion if we're ready to do that.
I make a motion that we approve the subdivision with no additions.
Okay. Make a recommendation, okay. Okay,
So upon approval, we'll publish a notice for a public hearing, and that will be brought up at the county supervisor's next Tuesday meeting.
okay,
And we'll go through the final approval process with those folks.
okay.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any other comments or questions at this point? Okay, all in favor say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. That has been approved. Your subdivision has been approved, at least at this level. Thank you very much. Okay. Next item on the agenda, we have a public hearing for JCR addition, a minor subdivision to the northwest quarter of Section 14, Township 88, Range 46 west of the 5th Prime Meridian. GS parcel 884614100004, in addition to Woodbury County, Iowa. Who represents this? Alan? Okay. Do you want to read into the record background information on this application?
Sure.
Okay, sorry.
So the co-trustees of the Wendell C. Roschke Irrevocable Trust is proposing to subdivide 14.22 acres into 2 lots. This property is also zoned in the Agricultural Preservation Zoning District. It's located in the northwest quarter of Section 14 in the 88 R46W of the 5th Prime Meridian in Woodbury County. The current and proposed use of the parent parcel and its structures are permitted under Woodbury County zoning ordinances. This particular piece of ground does lie within 2 miles of the city of Lawton, so it too received extraterritorial review. And the city of Lawton on January 24th, 2018, by resolution waived formal review of the plat. 7 property owners within 1,000 feet. They were also listed within the certified abstractor's affidavit. They were all notified of the letter of the public hearing, and as of the date that we passed the packets out, February 16th, 2018, our office had not received any comment from any property owner within that 1,000 feet. Don't see anyone here in the audience today other than the surveyor that worked the subdivision. Agency comment, we went through the same process, just a couple of different telecommunication agencies were involved. CenturyLink had no comment. Mid-American Energy, no comment. County Soil and Water Conservation District, no comment. DNR, no comment. Sealing District Health, no comment. Wyattell, no comment. County Assessor, no comment. Emergency Services, no comment. County Engineer did have a comment with respect to information provided in the subdivision application. They checked the final plat, found it in compliance with the requirements of the full subdivision. Dan, was there anything significant that the county engineer wanted to make note of on this particular piece of ground?
He had an additional comment, as you'll see. He had a question about the driveway, and he sent me a message to confirm. He said, Dan, I looked at the access to Lot 2 of the JCR addition. I found a couple of locations that will work for access to the lot. I will work with Mr. Roschke to identify a site, get a permit in place, and construct an access to the property. So everything seems to be in order with the county engineer.
All right, thank you. Besides that, County Recorder, no comment, and Woodbury County Rural Electric Cooperative had no comment. So staff recommendations subject to the public hearing testimony, which I don't anticipate there being any. The staff recommendation supports a final plat approval recommendation by your commission, subject to any conditions you may want to warrant.
Questions or comments? Alan, do you want to say anything to us at this point?
My name's Alan Fagan. I'm the land surveyor. There was a parcel, your aerial that you had up showed that there was a 2-acre parcel cut out. Joyce and Charlie want 2 more lots created that goes around that. Since that piece was cut out, they're required to do a subdivision. It's a 14-lot subdivision, or 14-acre lot subdivision, 2 lots. 1 lot has a house and a couple of buildings, and the other house is for a proposed building up in the north of that piece that's cut out. And unless you have any other questions, I have no other comments to make.
There's only slightly over an acre in the floodplain.
It's not in the floodplain. So, it's all.
Everything's out?
Page 58.
Just that bottom corner.
They had an X that marked the one location. Page 58.
Yeah, that's down in the south. We're up in here. So you're right, that the highlighted area, the east half, the northwest quarter, down in the southeast corner, there is some, but we're up in here.
It's not
So,
referring to the
yeah,
subdivision.
exactly.
Okay.
Doesn't
So
affect,
none of our subdivision is in the
The
flood.
none of the 2 lots.
Okay.
That's why I was wondering why that.
okay, so are you addressing on page 58 where the number 14 is on that map? Was that your concern, or was it something else?
Well, that's what I was getting at. Yeah, it didn't really specify where that location was. That's why I was wondering, yeah, on page 51,
51,
it mentions it,
right?
and that's why I was clarifying that none was in the
In the subdivision.
subdivision.
Okay,
So,
okay. Any other questions or comments at this point? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion that we approve the JCR addition minor subdivision proposal.
We have a motion to approve. Do we have a second?
I will second that.
Any other questions or comments at this point? All All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay, that carries. Subdivision's been approved. Moving forward. Next item on the agenda, item 6, RJ Tide proposed conditional use permit for 1821 US Highway 20 lot in Iowa. Zip code is 51030, parcel number is 8946353000023. Would you like to read into the records background information on this?
Yes, thank you. So the applicant, RJ Tide Company, is a concrete contractor company with property located at 1821 on Highway 20 in Lawton, formerly known as the Healy Works property. I'm sure you're all familiar with it. They have filed for a conditional use permit because their current zoning district, which is in the general commercial zoning district, does not include an allowed use for a construction contractor yard. As you can see in their application, in order to conduct their daily business operations, includes the storage of materials and equipment not limited to rebar, concrete forms, and skid loaders. They are seeking approval of a conditional use permit to use that property in that manner. We had a pre-application conference with Ms. Tina Bertrand prior to her submittal of the application. We went over the intended uses. We looked at some aerial photos of where they believe that it would use the property in such manner. I think it would be good probably hear from the applicant in terms of what the current uses of the property and the structures are, and maybe what some intended uses would be.
Good evening, I'm Tina Bertrand. I work for a company called Cook DZ, so I am actually an owner's rep of RJ Tide, so I'm consulting for them. We do have the president of RJ Tide Construction with us as well for any additional comments or questions. Basically, the current format is that under the current zoning, a construction yard is not applicable or addressed as we can tell. There's not a very clear definition of what a construction yard is. So in order to make sure that they're in compliance, they felt that it would be necessary to at least apply for a conditional use permit. We did have the pre-application meeting. We did discuss different options in terms of rezoning ability, and felt that the conditional use permit approach was probably sufficient for the needs and to allow RJ Tide to operate in a manner that they need to. In some of the exhibits that we have, I don't know if they're all in there, we did identify some potential areas that they would use as a yard area. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's all of that area. It's just they're trying to, one of the things that they would need to do is try to figure out how they're going to access with some of their vehicles. Generally, what they have is construction materials. They have forms that they use on their sites. They like to have those on their job sites, not actually at their office, because if they're at their office, they're not making money with it. This way, they're actually in place. But there are times logistically when they're coming off of one job site going to another that they may have to store them at their office facility for a short period of time and then move them on. Same thing happens with some of their rebar material. Again, most times it's out on the job site. It sometimes can come back if they're cleaning up. Sometimes if there's an issue where they're just trying to logistically get to a job site, they may have to bring it in and then take it out. They prefer not to have to handle it twice. So anything that can go out from a supplier to a job site is preferable in their opinion. However, they can't guarantee that. So in an effort to, like I said, be in compliance with all zoning requirements, they, in the discussion with staff, that this would probably be the most appropriate approach.
The property itself is just shy. It's 2.68 acres, and so the minimum requirement for a light industrial zoning district where that construction contractor yard would be allowed is 3 acres. And just wanting to sort of preserve the integrity of that neighborhood and that specific piece of property, which has a good history of being well kept and not disturbing the residential development to the north. We felt that instead of asking for a variance on the lot requirement, and then the potential of it being approved and these owners moving, and then someone actually moving in who may have a heavier, true industrial use, that could have, a potential effect on the appearance of the neighborhood. I guess from, just driving up and down Highway 20 and looking at some of the other properties within the general commercial zoning district, because this company is a construction company, it kind of pigeonholes them into this particular use on the land use summary table because they are a construction contractor. But building materials is an allowed use within the general commercial zoning district, and there are other businesses operating with building materials and outdoor storage. So I guess I guess staff was a little sympathetic to that, to that fact. The only, I guess, recommendation that we would have, we sent this out to all the other departments within the county. Secondary roads didn't have any issues with it from a road standpoint. All the essential public facilities and services are adequately serving the property. It's a fully developed site, so we believe it's adequately equipped to serve as a contractor yard. We would just maybe recommend some provisions that would ensure the security of the property and those materials, not wanting, someone to be able to come in and steal them, so I don't know, fencing or lighting and, security measures, I guess, basically. And I would assume that'd probably be something that the company would want. We already have lighting.
Russ Bertrand with RJ Tide. Answer your question, we have lighting around the building. Actually, some of it was disconnected. We're in the process of rehooking it up and relamping it. Fencing, we've generally avoided. The property has some self-storage units that are part of it when we purchased property. So we were trying to kind of avoid fencing those and giving people easy access to their units. But in the rear of the building, there's very little to steal. I mean, we're using them for equipment and trailers by which we don't.
What kind of traffic do you anticipate coming in out of your property? Are you currently operating off of that property now?
Yeah, we're currently operating there. We operate pretty sufficiently within the general commercial. So we basically use it as our main office. We house project managers, estimators, admin staff. We do training there with our field guys. They come in to the office and do OSHA training and stuff like that there. We have it has a shop facility, so we basically bring our equipment in and we service inside the shop that was already basically set up from when it was Healy Works. So we operate in general conformance, and you hit it pretty well, which is given the nuance of we operate within the general commercial, but by the definition of what we are, we didn't want a conflict. We just soon resolve it because, like I said, if the property next to us ever sells, the guy Healy still works out of the building next door. He was actually surprised that it wasn't light industrial when we were buying it. He thought it was, and we said, well, it wasn't a deal killer for us. We just figured we'd go through this process, and we do it while he was still there in case if he does sell, we don't want to get into a rumple with any future owner who, we're actually operating it and probably a little tighter than he was even operating it. So,
Well, and I think we have notices sent out to property owners in the area, so we have heard nothing back from anyone, so no one has a problem with it. So it seems to be, a good fit. The only concerns I have is how much traffic goes in and out, especially on the highway with the amount of traffic that goes back and forth on Highway 20 going either direction, north or
on a
east or
daily
west.
basis, we have just people that house and work out of there. We have about 10 people currently that house and work out of there. We have, on any given day, probably half dozen to a dozen other people that come in and out, vendors, suppliers, just more often annoying salespeople.
Probably no different than Icon Ag.
Yeah, very similar, actually probably far less traffic than Icon Ag.
Okay, okay. I know semis turning and that kind of stuff, it's always kind of tricky, especially with the line of sight, so, okay. Just want to make sure everybody's safe, right?
Property is also served by a small frontage road, so that's nice. And yeah, you know, I guess these folks seem to be keeping up with the overall history in terms of an orderly property. And so I guess from a staff recommendation, we were comfortable with making a recommendation of approval of this conditional use.
Anybody have any questions?
I guess it's just a further comment too on the issue with the variance for industrial. I think we run into more problems going that way. Like you said, you don't know what will happen down the road.
Right.
Versus this approach. There's
Yeah.
more control for what happens down the road. If
Exactly.
something doesn't come in there to interfere with somebody else. That rezoning.
Well, it seems to be a better fit for the comprehensive plan overall to keep it this way.
I missed that. Did you say you were gonna put a fence up?
We don't have any current plans to put one up. We don't have any genuine concerns about theft or anything like that. And trust me, if we get into that, well, there'll be a fence. But has not been an issue.
Yeah, I just didn't quite understand all that. And that's fine if you get comfortable with it.
We operate without a whole lot of rules. It's a nice quiet neighborhood, so.
Right. I mean, if you had problems, you'd put security systems up first, I'm sure.
Wow. Healy had, man, that guy had that wired, he has it so wired for security, it's crazy, but, we've got internal security, but he had cameras everywhere on that site, which we're not operating, but.
Okay. You have that option.
We do, we've got all the infrastructure for it, so.
Okay. Any other questions or comments from the commission? No?
Ma'am?
Entertain a motion? Sure. I'm not going to say approve. You don't want to do that. You guys decide.
We actually just have to make a recommendation.
Right.
For adjustment.
Right.
Recommend that we make the recommendation to Board of Adjustment to, with no conditions other than, I guess, nothing really added, that this fits within the plan and all the conditions could be met or can be met to approve this for a conditional use permit without any conditions that on this.
Anybody else wants to go on? Okay, we have a motion. Any further discussion or comments? We have a second?
Second that.
Okay, we have a second. Okay, going once, going twice. All in favor, say aye.
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 Okay, all opposed, same
Thought you
sign.
had something to say.
Okay, there you go. We got you through one step. One more step. You're very welcome. Thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is board schedule, meeting date and time.
So, Commissioners, as if you don't know, County Board of Supervisors, we are in the middle of holding budget hearings and finalizing the budget for fiscal year 19. What has been a recently public discussion on courthouse security, as well as the overall condition of the county budget. Department directors have been tasked with coming up with any sort of cost-saving measures possible. We've actually made a significant reduction in our overall operating budget for fiscal year 19, which the board appreciated. One of the ideas that has been floated is that the Board of Adjustment and Zoning Commission consider moving their meeting date and time from Mondays to Tuesdays. The county courthouse is open on Tuesdays, as you know, because the County Board of Supervisors meet at 4:30, so courthouse security is staffed here. The recommendation, the idea has been to piggyback off of their meeting date and time. We can still request or still hold a 6 o'clock start, It would just be, instead of Mondays, it'd be on Tuesdays. There's some cost savings with the security detail, and as well as just, I guess, overall access to county supervisors if there was an issue that somebody might want to discuss. You could attend 2 meetings rather than 2 separate days. We've pitched this and had a discussion with the Board of Adjustment. They were receptive. Wanted to know what you folks thought, because since we were going to do it, we'd want to do both instead of just one and not the other. So I know that you've had some recent discussions about meeting times. I've read some of the emails about wanting to, consider moving it earlier or a different time of the day. I feel that we could probably, from a department standpoint, still be able to attend the county supervisor meetings on any agenda items that we might have to present to them, and still have, sufficient time to be prepared for you guys at 6, so.
You ever run into an issue with time constraints where the meeting may run long on a supervisor? Normally they aren't, but if there's a controversial issue.
Sure. I brought that up, and I guess I've sort of asked for some sort of assurance on placement on the agenda. If I could request, to be up at the top before they get into the weeds on something that might be debated or take longer to discuss.
But since it's in the same location.
They actually meet downstairs in the basement.
Everything.
Yep. So.
What's it, significant savings? What is the savings? Has that been estimated?
Well, not necessarily, because we have the staff here. There's been some different discussions and different scenarios with the sheriff in terms of if he was going to have to switch. Just the board just approved last Tuesday that they were not going to allow weapons in the courthouse any longer, which was going to cause a restructure of his entire security detail. He was thinking about moving to more additional part-timers, maybe bumping some people up to full-time. But I guess just from a matter of what your guys' level of comfort is.
I don't have a problem with Tuesdays.
Go to the thing, yeah.
I'd be okay with it. So same time.
Same time, same last week of the month.
I thought he was going to say noon with lunch, but didn't hear that, so.
Oh, yes, we did. We're on record. There goes the budget.
We can do supper too.
Yeah,
That's
there we
true.
go. Uh-huh. We want fed.
Well,
You guys want to be fed? Okay.
We're actually working to that. So do we have any opposition? Is that okay with everybody, or what are your thoughts?
Still look at,
I'm just wondering, anybody that wants to, if something comes up that pertains to one of us and we want to go to the board meeting, we're gonna miss this meeting. So, depending on when it's put on the agenda too. That's the only concern I have. There's times when I've gone to the board meetings, I haven't gone for quite a while, but I was going on a regular basis.
Sure. Typically, unless there is a hot button issue and there's, the room's packed, typically those meetings are over, 5:36, but I understand your concern.
I'm not opposed to change, but that's a concern.
I'd like to have the opportunity to go to those meetings if there was something that was on the agenda of interest. Sure, sure.
what time do they start? I guess I don't.
4:30?
Okay.
Then I guess in reverse, it's, if it does happen, just
Have to either come late or
be
whatever.
later or.
Be an excused absence.
Get on YouTube and
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah.
We won't keep track of the tardies.
So does that affect you guys and your overtime? Does that have any impact on overtime? Do you have overtime in your budget, or?
Yeah, so we've switched from granting time and a half to actually paying Dawn out. So she was accruing a lot of additional vacation hours. With the change in the administrative staff up front, it's better to pay her out than give her more time, because when she takes her time, often we're stuck with not, you know, having someone to service the front end of the house, so.
Sure. I know.
Dawn wants more money anyways, every time you ask her.
That's what I figured. Our overtime
She'd rather
budget is
have
gonna
the
go
money
through the
than
roof.
off.
Yeah, that's the only concerns I have is overtime. Everybody talks about overtime and budgets, and it's like, okay, those are big numbers, can add up fast, so. Okay, I have no opposition to it. Do you
I
need a
just don't like
motion?
fees, so, but I mean, I'm good with the move, just,
Okay.
so that's kind of understood, I guess, you know.
Well, what we'll do is we'll let the Board of Adjustment know that there's consensus that it's okay, and then we can probably shoot for pull the trigger and implement it either March or April, whatever you folks are more comfortable with, but they said sooner than later, might as well do it, so.
As long as we can get it in all the publishing done, that's the only thing that we would worry about, is making sure we're still in compliance with the laws. Okay, so do you need a motion from us?
No, just seeking your consensus, and if that's okay, then we'll go ahead and update the website and all those things.
Okay, sounds like you have it.
All right, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda is board member compensation.
Yeah,
We're
so this is pretty
compensated.
awkward, especially being our first meeting as a new team in front of you. But our ordinance is,
You did say you cut your budget.
Not our budget, their budget.
the ordinances are clear as day, where it says that the zoning commission and the board of adjustment members are to not receive any compensation for meetings. For whatever reason, when I was working on the budget, there was a line item for compensation, and I think you guys were getting like a $10 meeting stipend. And I guess I just wanting to make sure that we're following the rules and the ordinance. Either we amend the ordinance to allow for that $10 stipend. We would continue to pay, reimburse you for expenses incurred conducting site visits or, you know, traveling to and from meetings. But as it related to that $10, I don't know where that came from. I tried to, Board of Adjustment couldn't remember why either. They just knew they got it.
It's been there for,
It's a Christmas present at one point in time. I don't know what it was, but you know, if you cut that out of my budget, it's really gonna hurt.
as long as the supervisors know it's theirs too.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know if I was gonna, you know, field a bunch of letters of resignation and you guys were gonna storm out on us today or what, but.
Honestly, I think we need to amend it so we do get our $10. Anybody want to follow that?
But we're providing water and coffee now.
Neither
We're
is a
trying to
catch.
smooth it over with
There
that.
goes, okay, yes, bribery, okay. I have no problems with that.
Okay. Well, thank you.
Anybody?
I just was hoping for some clarification or some guidance on that.
Anybody else on that? We don't want you to get fired right off the bat, Dave.
Yeah, thank you. I don't want that to happen either.
Okay, next item on the agenda is number 9, fireworks policy.
So I know you folks probably had some growing pains with folks out there wanting to light fireworks off or sell them. I know statewide, a lot of county jurisdictions really just sort of didn't do anything and just approved them sort of conditionally or just within the general commercial zoning districts. I've been doing some research on Iowa State Association of Counties through the county zoning affiliate. Dan has been doing a lot of research nationwide on ordinances relating to fireworks, specifically into the sale. I guess what I just wanted to let you folks know is that we would like to come back with a recommendation on an amendment to our use summary table and identify where an appropriate zoning district would be for the sale of fireworks as well as the wholesale storage. So we're trying to do some research and find some support to back a recommendation on where that would be appropriate. what we're sort of, we've had an applicant come in for a building permit who wants to build a permanent structure. It's the same property owner that last year had a tent on Highway 20. And so this business owner would like to build a permanent structure on his property and sell fireworks there. So if we don't have any ordinances or rules or regulations on the books, we default to state code. And I guess right now, as long as he's following the rules with the state fire marshal, there's really no reason to deny it. But I personally don't think it's, and I think the county engineer shares the same sentiment about not wanting to see these pop-up stands on ag ground with issues, you know, coming off of the road system. And I think it might not be a great idea to try to divert commercial retail traffic into an industrial area where there might be, you know, a lot of
Flammables.
yeah. so we're trying to figure that out. But when this particular applicant came in, really wanted to know an answer, yes or no, are you going to approve it? And so we gave him the thumbs up and say, we've got some work to do, but we appreciate you coming in, you know, way ahead of season. And that's just kind of where we're at. But we wanted to bounce something off of you folks first, and then bring something to the Board of Adjustment. And then I'd also like to get some feedback from the county supervisors. We've seen some jurisdictions limit the sale of them. I personally don't really care one way or the other if the county supervisors want to limit the time frame of when they can be used or sold. I just want to find an appropriate place for them to be sold and stored. So,
Would you still want to keep it as a conditional use within a specific zoning district? Then you have a little bit more control.
we could, like say in a light industrial or a general industrial.
Instead of just approving it, because then you could end up with situations where, hey, well, why can't we deny this? It's an approved use. If it's a conditional use within the zoning district, it still gives flexibility.
So I've seen one case, and Dan dug this case up, but there was some, I don't call it backlash, but there was it was sort of contested on the conditional piece of it only being allowed strictly through a conditional use process, because the state allows it, they've got to be able to do it, so you can't really not let them do it. General commercial, where most of the retail transactions take place, makes sense. And putting some conditions like in an industrial or other zoning districts, I think we're safe in that regard. But I don't want to. I guess I want to get some more legal review on having all applications be approved through conditional use. That's where the legal, we might run into some legal issues. So I
think
guess.
just some background history. I think at the time when this came up, we didn't know what to do, and I think the direction that we were given is a wait and see direction at the time. Because Sioux City was doing a wait and see, we said, yeah, we better do a wait and see. And then as far as research or activities or occurrences that might have happened, normally what we try to do is stay within the state of Iowa. We try not to go nationwide. We want to pick a county that's comparable in size with us, that has the same kind of issues and problems, that we can go, hey, how are you handling this? And so we have a good guideline that way too. I know that's something that we've done previously. I don't want to go to California on stuff if we can help it. To me, that's just a different animal completely. But that would be my suggestions, is to check with maybe some of the local municipalities that are very similar to us, and our counties that have the same maybe, population.
I would assume you're going to see a lot of that, because like you
Exactly.
said, when this went through before, it was kind of a last minute thing. Now
Yeah.
there's other communities that are addressing the same issue.
So if I survey anybody, I would survey, people within Iowa, first of all, those zoning directors that have to deal with this, and find out what their issues are and kind of the direction they're going, and find out why, and if that might work for us, that would be my suggestions.
Are you kind of researching the other areas to get ideas how they're handling a similar situation. I mean, I understand that, because you gotta have some kind of guidelines,
Mhm.
you know, so that's why they're picking those. I understand you don't wanna copycat what California's doing, but look at South Dakota, they've been selling fireworks for years, so.
Right.
I mean, that's a good scenario right there, what's happening in South Dakota.
We don't want to get, I don't think, too restrictive because it's an economic development opportunity. By the same token, we want to stay safe and not go overboard either, as far as,
I think one we talked quite a bit about last year too is if nonprofits get involved and start looking at it as a fundraiser. You can see that's where a lot of your temporary type structures probably.
Yeah.
Another thing, last year, I think the same guy out there on 20 ran into a problem because he was gonna sell out of the storage units, and because he didn't have sprinkler systems,
mhm,
they shut him down, so that's why he put up the tent.
a permanent
Who's
structure.
gonna inspect all these buildings and make sure that they're all up to snuff the way the state wants them to?
Yeah, so that burden falls on the shoulders of the state fire marshal. The applicant that we sat down and had a discussion with just recently showed us the list of things that are required in terms of square foot and fire suppression and exits and, you know, all these different things that he has to be compliant with and be inspected on prior to approval of a permit being issued from the state. So we will conduct a thorough policy review, and I guess, you know, not wanting to create a big hot button issue, but I mean, it's got to be discussed. We got to hold public
Right.
hearing. We got to solicit input. So I guess I just wanted to give you a heads up and let you know that we need to do that. I'd rather be doing it ahead of the season than getting, you know, up to close to the 4th and then pressure one way or the other from folks. So.
Okay, so next meeting, will you have something for us to do some comparison?
Yes.
You know, something, background information?
Yes.
About what's going on in the state, or?
I guess another thing too, because we're looking at actually two different, he's looking at a permanent structure, and then we're still gonna have the issue with the tents, I mean, the, you know,
Temporary.
temporary
Mhm.
stands.
Mhm.
So, actually, his type of setup's probably gonna be safer in the long run, because it's gonna be regulated, it's the fire marshal, I mean, there's more, I don't,
Right.
do they have to, with the tents, there's not that much regulation to the state fire marshal, I mean, there is no suppression, there's no, you know, from what I've seen, attending it.
Well, I think too, what we did, or there was some little bit of research with the local fire departments to find out what their input was on what's going to happen, what are they thinking, what have they seen, and, you know, kind of working with them hand in hand too, kind of get their knowledge.
Yeah, and I know just
Because
from
so many of these are volunteer, it's like, ooh, okay.
And you know, that was an issue too, just based off of our ordinance on temporary structures. And I believe there was, you know, some issue taken with the applicant last year and on getting charged for a building permit, for the permit fee. I think it was Director Palolo's belief that within the ordinance that was going to require a building permit. And I don't think the applicant thought that should have happened.
For a temporary structure.
Based on the description of temporary structures within the current ordinance, I think Director Palolo's decision seemed to fit, you know, well for the situation. And then, you know, I think there was some lobbying for it or against it, and I don't know how that all turned out, but I don't think, because he told me that he wasn't charged the permit, building permit. So.
But to be able to keep tabs on who's doing what out there with temporary structures, I think that's the main thrust of a building permit. It's not so much as it's money, but folks, we need to know what's going on out there.
Yeah, you know, that home occupations, there are a number of things that we've sort of discovered that we wish we had a better grasp of who was doing what. So those are some other things that we'd like to propose, a slight change or a shift. whether there's, you know, there's not a fee or just having the actual, you know, knowledge of what's happening on a piece of property is pretty important.
Right, and we still require the permitting process for home occupations, don't we?
No, there's no application process or approval process for that.
Because
Well,
it's allowed, so,
You're talking, building permit.
Yeah, well,
If there's no building.
but it's,
Right.
it's the same situation though. If someone was gonna have a temporary structure, they don't have to have a permit with us. Where if someone was gonna operate a, you know, home-based business and they were, under the home occupation criteria, you just have to meet 7 standards. You don't have to come in and tell us. And the practice of the office has been on a complaint-driven basis.
yes.
So that's just something that, you know, as we get into these, we're looking at things from, you know, I guess, an outsider's perspective on how can we get a better sense of what's happening. I don't want to impose a ton of new regulations, but from a management standpoint or administratively, it's hard to, you know, when complaints come up, it would be better that we have some sort of documentation that you are, you know, going under a home occupation. So we've been pretty willing to work with folks and guide them through, you know, home occupation and how to meet those standards, rather than try to force them into, you know, rezoning their property or getting conditional use or some sort of variance. But
So as an economic development person, is there any value as far as those kind of numbers and grant money, or is there value there other than knowledge simply?
I guess it's just for administratively, and then being able to have a record of, you know, of the use of the property. And on a complaint issue, if someone's been complaining, you know, those sort of things, so.
At what point do you take action?
Exactly.
And what happens with the action?
I think a lot of that came back when everybody looked at it as too much regulation. If we're not hurting people and people aren't upset and we're doing a good job.
Exactly.
Just leave us alone, let us start a business, maybe it's a gateway or something, when
Yeah.
we go big enough, then we'll do what we need to. I think that's
Yes.
where that kind of came from, that if they're not affecting anybody negatively,
Right.
and they're adding to the economic benefit of the community, let them do it.
Right.
So I think that's where that came from.
Sure.
Back in '03, where, you know, you're trying to overstep your bounds.
And really why we've been thinking about it, we've had a situation where we were contacted by the fire chief of Sergeant Bluff, and there was a fire on a residence in rural Woodbury County, and the fire chief wanted to know if they had a permit to operate a business. There was no permit. Well, I guess we didn't have a permit for conditional use because the business use that was happening at that location was not allowed in that zoning district. And so we searched for a conditional use permit. There was never a conditional use permit granted. There was never an application to rezone the property, and there was no documentation of it being known that there was a home occupation at that residence. So we just met with the landowner and just said, you know, hey, I don't think that you'll get rezoned. I don't think it'll get approved to be rezoned. I think that if, you know, you can work with us on meeting these standards, and then we document that we know that you're, you know, having a home occupation, and just in fairness of the neighborhood, if we get complaints, you know, a certain number of complaints, then we'll probably steer you down a path towards a conditional use permit and just give the neighborhood the opportunity to weigh in on the discussion. So that's how we sort of, you know, yeah. But back to the fireworks deal, we'll bring you back something next month. And I do want to get some feedback from the board of supervisors in terms of what would they like? Because again, the use of it, the time frame, and those things don't really matter to us as so much as where they allowed.
Okay, are you ready to move on to item number 10?
Yes, ma'am.
Any citizen wishing to be heard, seeking a hearing none, unless we have somebody from the commission that wants to say anything? Hearing none? No?
Well, I guess I was saving that for 11.
Oh, okay, okay. Commissioner comments or inquiry then? Number 11, moving on.
Back to the issue we had with the construction yard. After I read through this and I pulled out the book and I was looking through, and there is no allowance. It's not a conditional use anywhere other than the general industrial.
Light industrial.
Light industrial. And there's no definition between, a smaller remodeler that, grows beyond home-based business. There's just no room there.
There's no transition.
There's no fit there for small, like this type of, I don't know if that's something that we should address, because there's a lot of that around. And there's no avenue for them to say, hey, well, how can I do this and still fit in, but I'm not going industrial.
Right.
I don't know if that's.
What would your parameters be? How would you,
Well,
How would you say s-
home-based business works if they're small and they're working out of there, but if they grow and they're 5, 6 guys, does that really need to be an industrial site that they're working out of, or can it be general commercial, which it's not allowed right now? That's all. It surprised me that there's nothing in between. There's no place to go other than industrial for that site. And granted, when it was written, a construction yard with 20 dump trucks and whatever, then it probably does need a certain zoning. But that in between niche where maybe those guys could fit in general commercial and not cause issues. That's the only thing that surprised me when I was.
Yeah, same here, and we looked at different definitions at the Iowa Department of Revenue in terms of what is a contractor, what are building materials, what is a construction company, and so yeah, I guess it does seem like it's almost sort of picking on them, and I think that maybe when it was created, maybe that was the mindset with these big construction dump trucks and.
It's almost like the definition's left out for a small contractor or that other fit that might work elsewhere. It's just because I even hear if he would have had 3 acres and wanted to go industrial, that might have affected people out there negatively if he moves out in 2
Yeah.
years. And all of a sudden this business comes in, well, hey, it's sold this, I can do what it's in there, I can do it. That's the fit. That's what I would be concerned with, making people rezone to light industrial to try to get by.
I remember we had a lot of discussion about those zoning designations for that reason too, is that we wanted to be able to kind of keep a finger on it and give them an option if they didn't fall within those parameters, and that's always what been with the conditional use permit's been, is to be able to compensate, rather than try to identify every situation. And the other thing that we did then is, once we start seeing a conditional use permit for the same thing over and over and over again, that's when we need to adjust our ordinances. So, keeping track of that, if it becomes an issue and it keeps resurfacing, then that's normally what we had discussed when we did the ordinances, that maybe we should change it. But it wouldn't hurt to check with some other zoning commissions again, go back to, counties that are similar to ours in population or development or whatever, and see if they have something different.
One of the things I do want to acknowledge, Dan, since he's been hired, he's been doing a lot of work on the computer and creating a database for the department, and he's imported a lot of the raw data from the department for a number of years on permits, applications, all these different things. And so now we're able to use through electronically, and Dan, if you want to speak to it anymore, it's really nice. I think what we'll be able to do is analyze with the computer, what are we seeing an increase, in the last 5 years, how many conditional use permits were issued, and then we can sort of peel the onion back and find out what specific cases or uses were coming before the bodies, and were they approved or denied, you know, he can even drill down to like where geographically they're taking place in the county. So we can look at, you know, maybe rezoning geographically. So it's pretty cool. And Dan, if you want to talk any more about what you've been working on.
Yeah, it's basically we're using an Access database platform, and it's really all about data collection. And so the date, the zoning district, the respective locations. So as much of that information we can pull in, and every time a project comes up, log it. We're able to run queries there. So as David mentions, we can come up with a different scenario and be able to run that information into a report that will help us answer different scenarios. And so the initiative, what we've looked at is they've had a Excel file in place right now that logs the permits, and that's most of our data there. And so going beyond the permits, getting into the conditional use permits, getting into minor subdivisions, and any type of activity we're including in there. And so also somebody gives the office a call just with a generalized question. We're logging it, who they are,
Good
where it
idea.
comes from, et cetera, so that we can get a sense on what's going on in the county. So it's a work in progress, as I tell David, because what really happens is incrementalism. We run into a new experience and we decide, oh, we need a new category. We need something there to fit with that scenario. And I've worked on it in a way that we're able to scan a lot of our information. So the database works with Windows file systems as well. So we'll go to the copy machine and copy much of our records and include it in there as well. So anything from our packets on down to just raw data, we're making it every initiative so that we have a paper trail for everything.
Yeah, it's really nice, and I feel like it also helps demonstrate just the overall workload that the department, you know, has, and sort of validates the fact that, you know, it's a phone, you know, it's a very busy department, and just with the restructure, I feel like it's a good idea to document our workload and the things that we're working on, and then also just use data to make informed decisions as far as policy and practice. So.
Another quick question, with the 20 completion approaching, what about the so-called Highway 20 corridor? Have you talked with the supervisors anymore on anything in the future or plans down the road that
Sure.
affect us?
One of the things that we've recently done is we've applied for, in partnership with a number of counties in so Ida, Woodbury, and is it Dakota, Nebraska. So we partnered with Simcoe, our Regional Council of Governments and Regional Planning organization, and we applied for a federal grant to do a economic development study along the Highway 20 corridor. It got approved. We just got notice that it was approved. And so we're partnering with all the communities along Highway 20 from Ida to Nebraska to South Sioux. We're going to look at some industry clusters and find out, you know, if there are, what are the typical economic development patterns along Highway 20, working with the cities on updating their comprehensive plans and looking at their future land use maps. One of the things that we've been involved in my department or my work is a comprehensive planning project. So every rural community, every city in Woodbury County in the next 2 years will have an up-to-date comprehensive plan. And my recommendation to the board is that once those plans are all approved and the future land use map are drawn up for every city, we can overlay that on our county map and then help us make some decisions in terms of you know, future land use on our development plan. And so that's kind of exciting, and I want to sort of use that information to feed into, you know, the county's general development plan and get some buy-in and support on, you know, what our I-29 and Highway 20 corridors look like in terms of land use. And I think that'll be a good thing. Trying to think of what else. I mean, is that kind of like what you were,
Yeah, I think, like I said, just a question to see, and you're on the, I was assuming there was stuff being done, just thinking.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, and you know, it's been really interesting, like, just seeing, the phone ring or who's knocking on the door. That stretch of Highway 20 is getting a lot more looks, from different businesses, and site selectors who are using traffic modeling, to figure out where they might wanna put maybe a new business, a new retail store, a new, you know, whatever, so it's exciting.
So moved. Sorry to meet you.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.